Hello students, I'm Sai Baba here. So in my previous class, I started discussing the solutions of the questions in the assignment in rotational motion starting from 61 onwards. So in the previous class, I have already discussed the solutions of the questions numbering from 61 to 68. So in this class, I am going to continue the discussion of the solutions starting with the question number 69. Look at the question number 69 on the screen. I am going to read out the question number 69. I am going to discuss the solution of this question now. O is the center of an equilateral triangle ABC. F1, F2 and F3 are magnitudes of three forces acting along the sides AB, BC and AC. As shown here, what should be the magnitude of F3 so that the total torque about O is 0? You can try to observe the direction of the torque. That means in what sense? Clockwise or anti-clockwise? The force tends to rotate about the point O. Now see, from basic definition of moment of the force. So moment of the force about, if a force F bar acts at the point with position vector R bar, that means if R bar is the position vector at the point of application of the force with respect to fixed origin of a coordinate system, then the moment of the force F bar with respect to the origin O given by tau bar is equal to R bar cross F bar. So using this definition for the moment of the force or torque, moment of the first force F1 bar denoted by tau 1 bar, that is equal to R1 bar cross F1 bar. So R1 bar is equal to position vector of the point B at which the force F1 bar acts. So that is equal to, now distance from O to A is same as the distance from O to B, that is same as the distance from O to C. In order to know the R1 bar, we can write it as OB bar. To know the angle between two vectors by the graphical method, the two vectors must be drawn graphically from same point, such that tail of one vector is attached to tail of other vector. So the angle between R1 bar and F1 bar will be equal to 30 degrees. So the angle this angle will be 30 degrees because each median of an equilateral triangle will bisect the angle at the corresponding vertex through which it passes. So internal angle at each vertex of the equilateral triangle is 60 degrees. So this angle will be 30 degrees, half of 60 degrees. This will be 30 degrees. So therefore, angle between R1 bar and F1 bar can be taken as 30 degrees. And direction of tau 1 bar, we can apply the right hand thumb rule of the cross product of the vectors. It acts outwards. So let OA equal to OB equal to OC here, equal to denoted by each distance by R. All the three vertices of an equilateral triangle will be at the same distance R from the centroid. Here O is the centroid of the equilateral triangle. which is the point of intersection of the three medians of the triangle. That is mod of R1 bar is R. The same way mod of R2 bar is also R. Mod of R3 bar is also R. So magnitude of the first torque you can write mod of R1 bar equal to R here, R into F1 sine 30 degrees. Similarly, you can find the moment of the second force F2 bar. Moment of second force F2 bar, tau 2 bar, you can write R2 bar cross F2 bar. So that F2 bar acts at the point C in the figure. So angle between F2 bar and R2 bar is also 30 degrees. So same way, R2 bar you can take it as OC bar cross F2 bar. Apply the right hand thumb rule of the cross product. If you attach the tail of R2 bar with the tail of F2 bar, the cross product R2 bar cross F2 bar acts outwards. So magnitude of the second torque you can write R into F2 into sine 30 degrees. The moment of third force F3 bar. Denoted by tau 3 bar. That is equal to R3 bar cross F3 bar. R3 bar and R2 bar both can be taken to be the same, equal here. So from right hand thumb rule of the cross product of the vectors, tau 3 bar acts outwards. I'm sorry, inwards here. R3 bar acts in this direction, same as the direction of R3 bar and R2 bar, you can take it to the same. R3 bar cross F3 bar. From right hand thumb rule of the cross product two vectors, you can observe that it acts inwards. So moment of the third force F3 bar is equal to R into F3 into sine 30 degrees. You can observe that the moments of the first two forces F1 bar and F2 bar act outward. That means the first two forces F1 bar and F2 bar try to turn or produce rotational motion in anti-clockwise sense about the point O. The third force F3 bar, moment of third force F3 bar acts inwards. That means the third force F3 bar produces a torque which tends to rotate in the produce the turning effect to the clockwise sense. So the resultant torque must be 0 for equilibrium. The total torque about F3 about the point both will be 0. If you give positive sign for torques which act outwards and negative sign for torques which act inwards. So magnitude of the resultant torque you can write tau 1 plus tau 2 minus tau, that is 0. So tau 1 plus tau 2, you can write tau 3. So here that is F1 plus F2 into R sine 30 degrees is equal to F3 into R sine 30 degrees. So R sine 30 degrees can be cancelled. So you get F3 equal to, finally the conclusion, F1 plus F2. So if you want to copy the working of this problem, take a pause and copy the working. one thing I would like to tell all the students that you must become familiar with application of the right hand thumb rule of the cross product of two vectors to understand some of the problems in rotational motion. And if you further, you can go through my class in vector product of two vectors. If you are not familiar with the application of right hand thumb rule of cross product of two vectors, you try to go through my class in the cross product of two vectors. So for question number 69, which I just discussed, second option will be the answer. Third option is the answer. For question number 69, which I just discussed now, third option will be the answer. Now see the next question, question number 70. A thin uniform square lamina of side A is placed in the XY plane with its sides parallel to X and Y axis and with centers coinciding with the center coinciding with the origin. Its moment of inertia about an axis passing through a point on the Y axis at a distance y equal to 2a and parallel to the X axis is equal to its moment of inertia about an axis passing through the point on the X axis at a distance x equal to d and perpendicular to the XY plane. Then the value of d is, as I discussed earlier, one special case in the past, I mean the case which I have discussed immediately after perpendicular axis theorem. So I have discussed two results based on the immediately following the statement of perpendicular axis theorem. One is that the moment of inertia of uniform square plate about any axis in the plane of the square plate and passing through the center of the square plate will be half of its moment of inertia about central axis of symmetry. So here the square plate lies in the XY plane. But Yx with x-axis, Oy with the y-axis. Length of each edge of the square plate is denoted by A. So moment of inertia of the square plate about z-axis, that is about the axis perpendicular plane of the square plate and passing through the center of square plate using that formula, I have given one of the results m into a square plus b square by 12. Here breadth b of the square plate is same as the length a because it is a square plate, length and breadth are equal. So you get ma square by 6. So moment of inertia of square plate about y-axis will be same as the moment of inertia of square plate. From perpendicular axis theorem, I can write Iz equal Ix plus Iy. By symmetry of the situation, Iy will be equal to Ix. That means Iz is to Ix, or you can write Ix equal to half of Iz. Iz is the moment of inertia of square plate about the axis perpendicular plane of square plate and passing through the center of square plate. That is Iz is the moment of inertia about the axis. So moment of inertia of the square plate about any axis in the plane of square plate and passing through the center of the square plate will be half of its moment of inertia about the z-axis or center axis of symmetry, that will be equal to, which will be equal to ma square by 12. So according to the problem, its moment of inertia about an axis passing through a point on the y-axis at a distance y equal to 2a. That is about this axis. And this distance is given to be 2a. It's same as its moment of inertia about an axis passing through a point on x-axis. Let A be the point on x-axis which is at a distance d from center of the square plate. Let B be the point on y-axis. Distance 2a from center of square plate. So let IA denote, according to the parallax theorem, moment of inertia of a rigid body about any axis can be written as moment of inertia about the parallel axis passing through its center of mass plus product of the mass of the body and square of the perpendicular distance h between the two axes. So moment of inertia about the axis passing through the point A and perpendicular to the xy plane. That means about the axis passing through the point A and parallel to z axis. Perpendicular to the xy plane means parallel to the axis. Will be called moment of inertia about the parallel axis passing through its center of mass means the moment of inertia about that axis plus md square. IA is the moment of inertia about the axis passing through the point A, which lies on x-axis distance x equal d from the origin and parallel to the axis. That means the axis passing through the point A is perpendicular to the xy plane. Perpendicular to the xy plane means you can assume it as parallel to the axis, or you can say it is parallel to the axis, parallel to the axis which passes through center of mass. That means here you can take ICM equal to IZ here, H equal D. Let I subscript B denote the moment of inertia about this axis passing through point B on y-axis, which is parallel to the x-axis and which lies in the xy plane. Will be called moment of inertia about the parallel axis passing through its center of mass means it will be equal to the, now again we will apply parallel axis theorem to find moment of inertia about this axis passing through the point B which is parallel to the x-axis. Will be called moment of inertia about the parallel axis through center of mass means moment of inertia about x-axis plus product of the mass of the body and square of the perpendicular distance with the two axes. So here it's given that IA and IB are equal. It's given that IB equal to IA or IA equal to IB. So IA can be IZ plus MD square. IZ you can substitute MA square by 6. IB equal IX plus M into A whole square. IX can be written as MA square by 12 plus M into A whole square means 4 MA square. You have to solve this equation for D. So those who want to copy the solution of this problem, they can take a pause and copy the solution of this problem. This problem was given in one of the previous MSET exam papers, in an engineering paper. I think in 2004 or 2005, one of the years in engineering in MSET exam. Similar question is given in the medical entrance with circular plate. In 2005 MSET and also in 2006 MSET. Come on, copy down the. Take a pause and copy down the calculation and complete the calculation. So if you simplify this, you get d square equal to a square into 47 by 12. So for question number 70, second option will be the answer. See the question number 71. The next question. 4 point masses, each of mass m, are placed at the corners A, B, C, D of side L. The moment of inertia of this system about an axis passing through and parallel to BD is. So you have to know the distance of each point mass from this axis. I mean perpendicular distance of each point mass from this axis. So here the first particle placed at the point A lies on this axis that passes through the point A, which is parallel to side BD. Therefore, distance of the first particle from the axis can be taken as 0. The perpendicular distance between the axis and fourth particle placed at the corner D will be same as the perpendicular distance between the axis and second particle situated at the corner B. The perpendicular distance of third particle placed at the vertex C from the axis is equal to length of the diagonal square. That is equal to root 2 times the length of each side of the square. R4 and R2 will be equal, and each will be equal to the distance of each vertex from center of the square. That is half of the length of the diagonal. Or you can write L by root. So what definition system of the 4 particles about the axis passing through the corner A can be written as M1 R1 square plus M2 R2 square plus M3 R3 square plus M4 R4 square. Here mass M1 of each of the first particle is M. R1 is 0. Mass M the second particle placed at B is also M. R2 equal to L by root 2. M3 is also equal to M. R3 is equal to L into root 2. M4 is also equal to M. R4 is equal to L by root 2. So you get 0 plus ml square by 2 plus 2 ml square plus ml square by 2. So that comes out to be 3 ml square. That will be the answer. So if you want to copy the solution, you can take a pause and copy the solution of the problem. For question number 71, third option is answer. The moment of inertia of uniform semicircular disk of mass m and radius r about a line perpendicular to the plane of the disk and through center is. So here, the mass of the semicircular disk is denoted by m, the radius by r. Let us imagine another identical semicircular disk is placed below this, which has same mass m and same radius r, so that the centers of the two semicircular disks coincide at O, so that you get a full circular disk. Let I be the moment of inertia of each semicircular disk about the axis passing through the point perpendicular to the plane of the diagram, plane of the disc, which you have to find. So I plus I, the other by symmetry, the other semicircular disc of same mass m with center coinciding with the point O will also have same moment of inertia I. So mass of the complete circular disc formed by the two semicircular discs, you can write small m plus small m. That is 2 into small m. So moment of inertia of the circular disc denoted by subscript C about the axis passing through the point O and perpendicular plane of the disc can be written as capital M into R square by 2. Moment of inertia of the complete circular disc is equal to sum of the moments of inertia of the two semicircular parts of the disc. That means I plus I. Capital M can be written as 2 into small m. Small m is the mass of each semicircular disc. Capital M is the mass of the full circular disc. So that means 2I is equal to small m into R square by 2. So you get I equal to small m into R square by 2. We know that moment of inertia of uniform circular disc of mass capital M and radius R about the axis perpendicular plane of the circular disc and passing center of the disc is a capital M into R square by 2. We have used that formula. Capital M is the mass of the full circular disc that will be taken twice, double the mass of each semicircular disc. And total moment of inertia of the full circular disc about the axis passing through the point O and perpendicular plane of the disc will be sum of its moments of inertia of the two semicircular parts. So this is the answer. You can copy down the working. So for question number 72, third option will be the answer. Next, look at the question number 73. A uniform rod AB of length L and mass M is free to rotate about point A. The rod is released from rest in the horizontal position. Given that moment of inertia of the rod about end A is ml square by 3. The initial angular acceleration of the rod will be. So the weight mg of the rod acts from its center of gravity, from its center of mass. Because the rod is uniform, you can assume that center of mass of the rod will coincide with the geometric center of the rod, which is at a distance L by 2 from each end. So the rod is pivoted about the end A. That means the rod is free to rotate about the axis passing through the end A. The axis is perpendicular to the plane of the diagram and passing through the end A of the rod. So the rod will of course experience some force at the end A by the support, but the moment of the reaction forces, I mean the torque acting on the rod due to the reaction force exerted on the rod by the support at A about the A as origin will be 0. That means we are taking A as origin. So moment of the force acting on the rod at the point A about A will be 0. So unbalanced torque acting on the rod net external torque acting on the rod is called the moment of the force mg. That is called the product of the magnitude of the force mg and perpendicular distance between the line of action of the force mg and the horizontal axis passing through the point A. The perpendicular distance between the line of action of the force mg and the horizontal axis passing through the point A will be equal to L by 2. So the resultant of all the external torques acting on the rod can be I into alpha. I is the moment of inertia of the rod. And alpha is the angular acceleration of the rod about the axis passing through the end A and perpendicular length to the rod. So alpha can be written as the net torque acting on the rod by I. Net torque acting on the rod, you can write mg into L by 2. So moment of inertia of the rod about the axis passing through one of the ends and perpendicular length will be ml square by 3. So you get alpha equal to 3g by 12. That's the answer. If you want to copy the solution of the problem, you can take a pause and copy the solution of the problem. Sometimes you may be asked to find initial acceleration center of mass of the rod. So initial acceleration or tangential acceleration for center of mass of the rod, you can write r into alpha. The center of mass of the rod moves in a circular path of radius r equal to L by 2 about the axis passing through the end A. Alpha can be written as 3g by 12. So in case you're asked what is the magnitude of initial acceleration, linear acceleration, center of mass of the rod at the instant just after the rod is released, that will be 3g by 4. Of course, that's not asked in the given question. For the given question, this will be the answer. So for question number 73, third option will be the answer. Then see the next question, 74. Particle of mass m moves in xy plane. Its velocity v along a straight line AB. The angle of the particle with respect to origin O is LA when it is at A and LB when it is at B. Then, so in general, when a particle moves with a constant velocity in the xy plane, then magnitude of the angular momentum, even the direct angular momentum of the particle with respect to center of circular path remains constant. Because of the perpendicular distance between the direction of the motion of the particle and the origin O, that is denoted by r perpendicular, that will remain constant. In general, angular momentum of the particle with respect to the origin O of a coordinate system is given by L bar equal to r bar cross p bar. So magnitude of the angular momentum of the particle with respect to the origin O, you can write rp sin theta, where theta is the angle between r bar and p bar, which you can also write p into r perpendicular. Here r perpendicular is the perpendicular distance between the direction of the motion of the particle and the origin O. So even though actual distance of the particle from the origin O is changing with time, the value of r sin theta means that is denoted by r perpendicular. It gives you the perpendicular distance between the origin O and direction of the motion of the particle. So the perpendicular distance between the origin O and the direction of the motion of the particle is constant in the present example. Therefore, angular momentum of the particle at A is same as the angular momentum of the particle at B. So magnitude of the angular momentum of the particle at each position is right magnitude of the linear momentum of the particle, which you can write m into v into perpendicular distance. R perpendicular is the perpendicular distance between the direction of the motion of the particle and the origin O. So answer will LA equal LB. So for question number 74, first option is answer. See the next question, 75. For the given uniform square lamina ABCD, whose center is O. You are given 4 options. IAD equal to 3 IEF. IAC equal to IEF. So already I have discussed some questions based on the same conclusion. I have discussed one special case immediately after perpendicular axis theorem, and already I have discussed 2 questions based on same discussion. The conclusion which I have already discussed past twice is that moment of inertia of uniform square lamina or square plate about any axis which lies in the plane of the square plate and passing through the center of square plate will be the same, and which will be equal to half of the moment of inertia about central axis symmetry. So moment of inertia about central axis of symmetry. So assume that the square plate lies in the XY plane. The center of the square plate at the origin. Then moment of inertia about central axis symmetry, I discussed one of the questions, MA square Y6. So moment of inertia of square plate about the axis EF will be same as moment of inertia about the axis AC, and that is same as the moment of inertia about the axis BD. That will be equal half of the moment of inertia about the central axis. That is half of MA square by 6 or MA square by 12. Where A is the length of each edge of the square lamina. But moment of inertia about the axis AD will be different. Because the axis AD is not passing through center of mass. So here second option is answer. Of course, you need not have to find whether the moment of inertia about AD is 3 times, because you are already familiar with this conclusion. But still, if you are interested to find the moment of inertia about the axis AD, that is not difficult thing. You can apply parallax theorem. Moment of inertia about the axis AD is equal to moment of inertia about the parallel axis passing through center of mass. That is moment of inertia about the axis EF plus m into square h square. H is the perpendicular distance between AD and EF, that is equal to half of the length of each edge of the square lamina. If A is the length of each edge. So that is equal to, this is MA square by 12. H you can write A by 2. So that will be MA square by 3. That will be 4 times the moment of inertia about the axis EF. To compare. So if you want to copy the working, you can take a pause and copy the working. So our next question, question number 76. A thin rod of mass m length L is bent at its midpoint into 2 holes so that the angle between them is 90 degrees. The moment of inertia of the bent rod about an axis passing through the bending point, perpendicular plane defined by the 2 holes of the rod. So in general, moment of inertia of thin uniform rod of length L, mass small m, about the axis passing through one of the ends of the rod and perpendicular to its length, is given by, as I discussed in the past, ml square by 3. So when the rod is bent into two parts, rod of total mass capital M. So length of each part, suppose it denoted by small l. Mass of each part by small m. Axis is passing through the bending point O. That means small l equal to capital L by 2 and small m is equal to capital M by 2. Total mass of the rod is denoted by capital M. Total length of the rod is denoted by capital L. So when it is bent into two parts at its midpoint, length of each part equal to half of the total length of the rod, and mass of each part can be taken as equal to half of the total mass of the rod. So moment of inertia of the one of the parts about the axis passing through the point O and perpendicular length of the rod. That is moment of inertia about thin uniform rod of mass m and length L about the axis passing through one of the ends of the rod. Perpendicular length is ml square by 3. If small m is equal to capital M by 2. Small l equal to capital L by 2. So that will be ml square by 2 into 4 into 3. So total moment of inertia system of the two parts, you can write I1 plus I2. Because I1 and I2 are equal, that will be 2I1. So if you substitute this value here, that is 2 into ml square by 24 or ml square by 12 is the answer. So if you want to copy the solution, you can take a pause and copy the solution of the problem. So for question number 76, second option will be the answer. So I am going to discuss the next question. Question number 77. Thin circular ring of mass capital M and radius capital R rotates about an axis through its center. And perpendicular to its plane with a constant angular velocity omega. Four small spheres, each of mass small m and negligible radius, are kept gently at the opposite ends. Four mutually perpendicular diameters of the ring. The new angular velocity of the ring will be. So we can consider the ring and the four small spheres as one system. Applying conservation of angular momentum for system here. So final angular system about the central axis symmetry passing the center of the ring will be called initial angular system. Initial angular system is called moment of inertia of the ring. Into initial angular speed, which is denoted by omega. Initially, the four spheres can be assumed to be at rest. They are not just before they are attached to the four ends of the ring. So final angular system is equal to moment of inertia of system. Final moment of inertia of system into final angular speed. Let omega dash be the new angular velocity of the ring. Final moment of inertia of system is equal to moment of inertia of the ring plus moment of inertia of the four small spheres. We are asked to neglect the radius of each sphere. Therefore, each sphere can be treated like a point mass, which are arranged like this. The system is rotating about the axis perpendicular plane of the diagram and passing through center O. So, moment of inertia of each small sphere about center of the ring will be mr square. So, total moment of inertia of the 4 spheres will be 4 mr square. Now, moment of inertia of thin uniform circular ring of mass Kepler and radius Kepler about the central axis symmetry. That is about the axis passing through the center of the ring and perpendicular plane of the ring. Given by Kepler into r square. So you can take r square common on the left hand side. And you can cancel r square both sides. So you get omega dash equal to m omega Kepler into omega by Kepler plus 4 into small m. So if you want to copy the solution of the problem, you can take a pause and copy the solution of this problem. For question number 77, fourth option will be the answer. Then you see the question number 78. Ring of mass 0.3 kg and radius 0.1 meter and a solid cylinder of mass 0.4 kg and of same radius r. Given the same kinetic energy and released simultaneously a flat horizontal surface, such that they begin to roll as soon as released towards a wall which is at same distance from the ring and cylinder. The rolling friction both the cases is negligible. You have to compare the translational speeds of their center of mass. As I discussed in the past, kinetic energy of a body of mass m, which rolls on a fixed horizontal surface without slipping, can be half mvcm square into 1 plus k square by r square. When k is the radius of gyration about the axis passing to the center of mass and parallel to the surface on which it rolls, and r is the radius of the rolling body. Both have same radius, so for ring you can write as explained earlier. For thin uniform circular ring, moment of inertia given by m square and I can be written as mk square. So k square by r square will be 1. For uniform solid cylinder, k square by r square will be 1 by 2. I equal to mr square by 2, which you can write it as mk square. So k square by r square will be equal to 1 by 2. So kinetic energy of the first body, that is ring, I denote by Ke1, half using this formula, half mv square into 1 plus k square by r square. K square by r square is 1. I'll continue my discussion next class. I will discuss this problem again.